Hello and welcome. Danette here. In today's episode, we're going to talk about setting and creating effective boundaries. One of the things that I struggled with for many, many years was this whole concept of setting boundaries, particularly around my schedule. So today we're going to talk about how to set them, create them, and how to make good, useful boundaries that you can incorporate into your schedule. When I had the most anxiety, when I was really struggling, I was working with a life coach and talking to her about this problem and that problem. And she said, Danette, it sounds like you need something called boundaries. And I said, great, what's that? What are boundaries? What is it anyways? And I had no idea. I had never even heard the term. Boundaries are simply a set of rules that we establish for ourselves. It's rules around our scheduling, our time. It's our belief system. It's things we will and will not do. One of the biggest issues, I think, is that we set boundaries for ourselves and then we don't honor them, or we expect other people to enforce our boundaries. And when we expect someone else not to cross our boundary, then we're giving up all of our power to another person. Today, what we're going to talk about is how do we keep and enforce them for ourselves, and specifically around scheduling, because I think scheduling is one of the biggest areas where, as women professionals, we tend to say yes to too many things, and that's where we get the most problem. So if that's of interest to you, please stick around. Hello and welcome. My name is Danette Lowe, and this is Shine First Today, where we help you learn how to follow your own internal guidance system. Thank you for joining us. The other day, a friend of mine heard this quote, and it went something like this: "The world is run on the backs of women without boundaries." And I thought, how true is that? That a lot of women who are busy working professionals who get a lot of things done often get them done at the expense of taking care of themselves, taking care of their own needs, taking care of getting a good night's sleep and exercising and eating right and all of those things. It's because it's so easy to try to create a boundary and then someone says, "Can you do this for me?" And we say yes. Two of the areas that I notice where I need boundaries is, number one is overscheduling myself. If you end up at the end of the day with more items on your to-do list than you did at the start of the day, that could be a sign that you need some boundaries. And if you have to say no thank you to something that is beneficial to you or something that you really want to do because you're so overcommitted doing things for other people, that might be another sign that you need some boundaries. Let me start by giving you a quick example of what a boundary could be. When I was in my 20s, I went to Weight Watchers. When you go on Weight Watchers, you are allowed a certain number of points and things like that. And I told, my family, I'm going to Weight Watchers. Invariably, someone would bring over a really delicious dessert for me to try and say, "Oh, come on, try it. Come on, try it." And I would get mad. Of course, I was in my 20s because that person knew I was trying to watch my weight. And they brought me something that tempted me from going off my diet plan. And so the boundary that I was trying to set for myself was around healthy eating. But what was happening was when somebody else was tempting me to break that boundary, I would either eat that tempting piece of dessert and get mad at myself and feel guilty, which is what happens, right? When we say no to things or yes to things that aren't good for us, we feel guilty. Or I would get mad at the person who brought the dessert over and say how unfair it was for them to try to tempt me from my boundary. So when we expect someone else to conform to our rules, then we're walking a really dangerous game, because then we're giving away our power to someone else. We're saying, I can only achieve this thing or do this thing if you behave in a certain way. I think it's the basis of so much drama and family drama is when we are expecting other people to do things differently, other people to follow our rules. If you imagine it this way, if we had to remember every single rule and boundary that our friends set or our family members set, which sometimes we do and we're kind of good at, but can you imagine how difficult it is to try to remember the 10 different things that people will or will not do? This person won't eat this. This person's gluten-free. This person is not drinking alcohol. This person is this. And if we had to remember everybody else's boundary, then it's impossible. And the same goes true of expecting others to remember and follow our boundaries. It's better just for us to set our own boundaries and then honor them for ourselves. And if somebody asks us to do something outside of those parameters, just politely say, no, I can't. Let me give you a little example. Let's say you've decided that getting a good night's sleep is an important goal for you, and that you've been struggling and you haven't been getting enough sleep and you've been working really hard. And so now you've decided you're going to go to bed at 9 o'clock. If someone asks you to stay up late and watch a movie, it's not that person's obligation to remember that, no, you're going to bed at 9 o'clock. You can politely say, nope, I can't watch that movie because I'm going to bed at 9 o'clock. Eventually, the person will learn not to ask you to watch a movie past 9 o'clock. I know that's kind of a simple example, but getting a good night's sleep is such an important boundary. Think of all the things that kind of encroach upon getting to bed at a decent hour, especially now that we are working from home. A lot of us are working from home. You can have emails, you can have work, computer, things like that. So you might want to set a boundary that says after a certain time, I don't turn on the computer, and stick to that. But it's up to you if you turn on your phone or you open up the computer and answer that email. Especially at nighttime, emails are one that can trigger you and can, cause you to think about 5 other things and can really sometimes make it hard to go to sleep at night. And let's talk about our scheduling. Creating time boundaries around our schedule is one of the greatest things we can do for ourselves. We need to start by writing down the things that are important for us. Write down the things that we want to accomplish in a day. I have taken up art and painting and watercolor and oil painting and all of that. And I try to dedicate a little bit of time every day to that purpose. It is super easy to get tied up at my work and just skip the hour I budgeted for myself to do art. So creating and setting effective boundaries, the first part is establishing them, and the second part is sticking to them. We are the only ones that can stick to them. Take a look at your schedule and look to see how you're spending your time. Are you spending all of your time meeting everyone else in the family's needs? And are you taking enough time each day to nourish your soul, to take care of yourself? One of the really cool apps I use is Calendly. So, one of the things I'm famous for is overscheduling myself. If I have a window to put in an extra appointment, someone calls and says, "Hey, do you want to meet?" I will put it in. And I have been known to schedule myself back to back to back to back with little to no breaks. You think at the time that you're, taking care of everyone else's needs and it's your job, but by not allowing time for yourself to recuperate in between appointments, to recharge and to just get out and walk around, it just adds to stress and overwhelm and all of that. So one of the things I do is in Calendly, if someone asks if they can meet with me, I open up my Calendly to see my availability. Instead of looking at my calendar, which if I have a 1 o'clock appointment and a 3 o'clock appointment, that 2 o'clock window is very tempting to put something in. But if I open up Calendly, Calendly says, no, that 2 o'clock window isn't available because you have a buffer in between to prepare for the next appointment and to debrief from the previous appointment. So that is one really easy, I think, tool that we can use is to, when we're overscheduling ourselves, is to add buffers into how we're scheduling ourselves. Another fun exercise to try is to plan a week of no extra tasks, no extra appointments, no extra activities. Plan a week where you keep it as wide open as possible. I understand you have some commitments that are probably not negotiable. Obviously, you have to meet those. But for everything else, instead of scheduling every minute of every day, leave as much time in a week as possible. I did this exercise a couple of months ago for the first time. What I did was I blocked 1 week where I was going to have no scheduled appointments. So I worked the whole time, but I wasn't going to have any commitments to be anywhere at a particular time. Let me tell you, it was so hard. It was so hard for someone to call up and say, "Can we meet on Tuesday at 2 o'clock?" And my schedule was literally wide open from Monday morning to Friday afternoon with nothing in. And I said, no, I couldn't meet. I scheduled it for, the following week. I have to tell you that was really hard and very worthwhile because it's up to us to set and create and enforce any boundary that we set for ourselves. It isn't the other person's responsibility to help us in any way, shape, or form. It is our responsibility to decide how we're going to show up in the world. And if we are overscheduling ourselves, which is a leading cause of stress, anxiety, overwhelm, panic attacks, simply from taking too much on and underestimating how long something will take. And so start with your schedule. I hope you found some of these tips helpful. We did another episode recently called Me Time, 3 Steps to Self-Care. That's a real fun one. We'll link to it here at the end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please like and subscribe. Please let me know in the comments any boundaries that you're setting or struggling with. And let's have a conversation around boundaries and what can we do to support each other. I hope you have a wonderful day and an amazing rest of your week, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. If you're looking for more support on your journey and you want to join a lovely community of like-minded people, please head over to our website at shinefirsttoday.com. At the website, we have a number of resources to help guide you on your journey. I'm sending you light and love. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.